acceptance. That for me, being in a friendship where I feel accepted exactly as who I am, that I don't have to try to be something else or try to fit into what somebody's expectations of me are in the friendship, is so important to me. And I feel like I do that for other people in my friendships. I love to just let people show up as they are and show me who they are authentically, because that's when you get the best version of people, is when you just let them be whoever they're comfortable being, no matter how, quirky or odd or, unpredictable that may be. It's usually even more fun if somebody's a little quirky.
Illuminance specializes in developing sensory processing sensitivity, a natural high sensory intelligence present in 30% of the population, co-creating with the power of humanity to consciously evolve towards balance. This session features trained high sensory coaches, facilitators, and consultants who coach other high sensory people and partner with organizations globally. To contact them directly or to find out about our programs, please see the details in the description.
Hello, Fiona, Andrea, Robbie, and all of those wonderful people out there that are watching us or listening to us. We are a community of HSP practitioners, high sensory processing practitioners. And I will let us go around the room. I will introduce myself first. We all bring amazing experiences, wisdom, insight, and even though the four of us share this amazing trait of being a high sensory person, our life's experiences can be very different within that. There's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. And I'll introduce myself and then share the topic. So my name is Donna Chism. I think I put my website up there. That's something, that's good. I remember to do that. I am a relational coach, and I incorporate mindfulness and self-compassion into that work, as well as trauma healing, grief and loss, basically any barriers to relational connection. So again, that trauma and grief and loss could be an example of that. Mindfulness and self-compassion, like everything kind of blends together. But my passion is bringing our world of relationships, whether in our own homes, in our own individual relationships, to more globally, into a state of deeper connection. And how about you, Robbie?
Oh, thanks, Donna. My name is Robbie Lee. I'm an empowerment coach, I'm a speaker, group facilitator, and I co-host a podcast called the HSP Connection. I call myself an empowerment coach because I'm on a mission to help HSPs craft lives that they love by cultivating their sensitive strengths, really tuning into those, by growing their self-compassion and self-love, and by trusting their own inner wisdom. You can find me at robbielee.com, and I'd love to connect with you there.
And how about you, Andrea?
Thanks, Donna. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Brideau Miller. I am an HSP coach specializing in helping HSPs find their value and their connection to nature on an energetic level. And yes, you can reach me through the email address on the Illuminance website.
And how about you, Fiona?
Hi, my name is Fiona Fletcher, Tavernier, and I have a master's in counseling psychology. So my training is as a traditional psychotherapist, but I am really in the process of reinventing myself to practice more as a mental health practitioner. And I just finished my Reiki 1. So my practice is evolving into something that is more of a Reiki-based mental health, mind-body healing practice. And you can find my contact information on the Illuminance website, and I can't wait to Reiki.
Wow, I love that. Congratulations, Fiona. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So the topic that I would love to share our insight and wisdom and life experiences is on friendships. So friendships to me is, God, it could be any friendship. But I guess I'm thinking that maybe if we could separate that, like a romantic relationship, if we could just focus on the friendship outside of that, just to keep it in a certain category. And this is something that I think about quite a bit. And as a matter of fact, on my website, connectedcoachinghsp.com, I have a YouTube video that I discuss friendship. And so, yeah, it's something in my life that I feel I have struggled with. Right now, I'm in a transitional phase in my life that my son is off to college. I was a single parent, and just finding developmental challenges with friends in my life that perhaps they're raising young kids. My son is older, just where we are in life and how easy it is to, to meet people. I'm working from home. I do a lot of work on Zoom like this. I'm grateful for that. But that for me has created more barriers and obstacles in finding friendships. And so I just thought that we would, spend some time talking about qualities that are important to us in giving and receiving friendships. And given that we are all these awesome HSP people, perhaps there's some differences than there is with non-HSP people. So anyway, I have a lot of ideas, but I would love to just anybody that feels up to it to just share again qualities that are important to you in a relationship for giving and receiving. Anybody would like to share? I'd love it. Robbie.
Thank you for the topic. I think one of the things that comes to mind to me is kindness. I offer quite a bit of kindness to friendships and love to have a space where I can be received in a kind way. And, sometimes for me that looks like a safe place where I can really be who I am, which is different than, mainstream culture. And I definitely offer that back in friendships for sure. I think I'm really good at creating a safe place where people can say what's true for them, and show up however they are. So whatever is true, you don't have to put on a mask, you don't have to pretend. Because that can just be so exhausting, right? And it's such a gift to receive that back in a friendship, to really have, it just feels like, I can breathe here. I can really, I'm okay the way I am is really the message that I get, right? It's just like, I don't have to pretend to be anything else. I am safe and welcomed here. There's lots of other things, but I thought I'd kick us off with that one and see where the conversation goes.
Yes. Well, and that, I feel like that's kind of the glue of developing any sense of growth or trust in a relationship, is to be able to show up and be, our authentic selves, whatever that is. And, Robbie, hearing you say that you are really good at meeting people wherever they are. I've experienced that from you. I love that about you. And that's something that I really value as well, to be, to offer that and to be received in acceptance of who I am. Yeah.
Thank you.
Fiona.
Yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, I love all those things that you said, Robbie, that kindness is so important. And I guess my add to that, the first thing that came to mind was acceptance. That for me, being in a friendship where I feel accepted exactly as who I am, that I don't have to try to be something else or try to fit into what somebody's expectations of me are in the friendship is so important to me. And I feel like I do that for other people in my friendships. I love to just let people show up as they are and show me who they are authentically, because that's when you get the best version of people, is when you just let them be whoever they're comfortable being, no matter how, quirky or odd or, unpredictable that may be. It's usually even more fun if somebody's a little quirky. But, I think when I think about my whole lifetime of friendships, I realized that it took me a very long time to discover that I needed different kinds of friendships, and I needed my friendships to be different than the way I saw other people having friendships. When you think about, especially as, female, when you think about your, middle school and high school friendships and how different they probably were than your adult friendships. It just took me so long to figure out that group friendships are difficult for me, parentheses, the clique things that were where I felt sort of more obligations to the group rather than having to pay attention to myself and what I want in relationships. It just took me such a long time to figure out that I really enjoy one-on-one friendships more than anything else. And when I finally accepted that about myself, it just made it so much easier to make friends and enjoy friends. And I joke, I only make a new friend about once every 3 to 5 years. Now I'm 53, that, the new friendships don't happen all that often. But boy, when I find somebody I click with, like, it's just right. And it's a great friendship. It's a special friendship. But yeah, for me, acceptance is huge, that my friends understand what my limits are socially, but also, what I bring to the friendship.
Well, and just, I was looking at, I had written down some things, and hearing the word obligation, right? Like, how many times in our lives have we, desiring a sense of wanting to be a part of something and belong, and then, or feel like we have to do it out of obligation. And so something that I have here is, I value, and instead of when I was talking about what I need in relationships, I crossed out the I and I put we, because it's about we. It's two parties or more. And I just said, we both value each other, taking care of ourselves, and we support each other in doing so.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And we are honest with each other. And, hearing that authenticity, being able to be our true selves, acceptance, like you said. I mean, I don't want a friend to want to get together with me out of obligation, and nor would I do that to them, because that's just inauthentic. So anyway, but that conditioning of obligation, I really, that is a cultural conditioning that we have all needed to work through. And I think that communication and saying friend to friend, hey, listen, if you feel obligated or you really don't want to do something or get together, I would really welcome your honesty and telling me that. And I will do the same for you, like an agreement, have an agreement with each other. So anyway.
As HSPs, if someone shows up out of obligation to be with us, we're going to sense it right away. We're going to be like, do you need to be somewhere else right now?
Yes.
I'm not feeling like you're really all here, because that's something that is we sense instantly from people. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which is a beautiful thing. I love it when people really sense me. Sometimes I just, you know, don't want to spill my guts right away, or something's really deeply bothering me, but it's just like we just met each other or just showed up in the same place, and I just can't let that out right away. You gotta kind of, you know, take a moment. And, you know, if I have somebody who's like, you okay? Or, you know, I'm so grateful that they invite that that opening for me. And that's just a huge valuable part of a friendship for me, is to have someone else be the instigator for the vulnerability. I know I'm always doing that, and for others, but I feel like it may not. If I meet somebody who is able to offer that back to me, I'm so grateful. I'm very grateful. And Robbie, I wanted to add too, with your talking about the word safety came up, that I think that HSPs, we've talked about this on other forums, that we're just able to hold space, a safe space for others to let out their whatever's happening for them, or whatever's on their mind, or be vulnerable, like I was talking about before. But also, I feel like it's a little bit of a danger for us, in that we can hold that space for others, but we have to be careful that it gets returned to us, that the safe space is held for us as well, or else it becomes a one-sided friendship and draining. And I've gone through that process of trying to figure out what's not right about this, you know, having people basically dump on you. They'll ask you maybe one little, how are you doing? And you answer like a sentence, and then all of a sudden, blah, 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 they have this whole problem that goes on for 45 minutes, you know, and then, you know, your walk's over. And I don't know if that's happened to you guys, but it's happened to me. And you just have to develop that awareness, I guess, that there's some balance in there.
Totally.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, I know sometimes what I do, spending time with people, I'll come home after, and this is how I had to learn how to include myself in, versus just, you know, the overcompensation of that openness, which is so natural for us, right? But I would come home and I would just say, you know, how are you doing? How are you energetically? And, you know, oftentimes it was like, wow, that was really nice. And other times it was like, wow, that was kind of draining. But something else, and I'm wondering if any of you have, you know, really thought about this, but it also requires for us to be able to put ourselves out there to people and not just jump into that role of I'm here for you, right? So expressing our own vulnerability. And I'll tell you, for me, one of my barriers is, I mean, you all know I am a very deep processing, deep feeling. I believe you all are too. And this could be from, you know, old childhood stuff, but sometimes I feel like if I'm going to be too much for people, that my emotional expression and my true feelings is going to be too much. And yet I know part of that is me, but I also know I need to learn how to check that out with my friends. And I've done that. And I have literally said to them, hey, this is my stuff. Like, I worry that this is going to be too much for you. And then they typically say, not at all. I'm like, whoa. But I needed to hear that, right? I needed to hear that, because that old voice of mine is like, oh, this is going to be too much. And I just say, hey, is this too much? And another agreement. And we have an agreement, friend to friend, that if something feels like too much, or you don't have the bandwidth for it, can you please tell me? I will not be offended. I will welcome it. And then that gives me more freedom to express my own vulnerability. Right. Can any of you guys relate to that? Yeah. Go
Yeah.
Fiona.
Well, that made me think of sort of similarly that I can remember having a period of time in my life several years ago where I realized it felt like all the friendships I had were friendships where I was receiving the emotional unloading all the time. And that, as you said, there wasn't enough room for my feelings, right? So it ended up feeling out of balance because I felt like there was no room for me to share what my experiences were. And I think I learned two things from that experience. One was I always felt like it was happening to me, right? Like, why does this keep happening to me? And I had to realize that that was just a belief system I was carrying around. It wasn't just happening to me. I was allowing it to happen to me because I didn't have clear enough boundaries with people. I hadn't learned yet how to communicate with people, in a kind and respectful way where my boundaries were around things. And as soon as I was more adept at communicating my boundaries, the easier that got. And then, then I don't feel like it's happening to me. I feel like I'm, in the driver's seat again, and I'm choosing how much energy that I'm able to offer at one time or another. So that was kind of a big learning experience for me in friendships.
I love that. I mean, just to have you dive deeper a little bit, Fiona, like, has there been times, with someone that's safe that you've had to, I don't know, that you've had challenges in sharing your own vulnerability?
Absolutely, because exactly what you were expressing, I always think either, it's the same as being on this podcast. There's a little bit of like, I'm talking too much, right? Like people can't possibly want to listen to me for this long. So there's a little bit of, right? Like there's a little bit of that voice of like, oh my gosh, I'm, rambling on too long. And also what you were describing, which is, I know I tend to have such deep feelings. And my experience growing up was there usually weren't people around me who were able to hold that. So I just assume people aren't going to be able to hold my big feelings rather than like what you're saying, checking in. Is this too big? Let me know. Like I'm feeling deep stuff. Is this too much for me? I'd like to know. That's great communication with friends. Friends love that.
And have you had the experience of being able to practice that and then it was met with a deeper level of trust?
Oh, absolutely. Once you say the thing you're thinking and everybody realizes, that's the unspoken thing. I think it brings the friendship closer. I really do. So, everybody's on the same page with, how deep are we comfortable getting?
Right. Right. I mean, I love how you brought in kind of the ownership, or this isn't happening to me. We are partners in whatever relation we're in. And I think it's our responsibility, specifically as HSPs, to learn how to get our needs out at the level that, that we're giving and communicating that. If we're not communicating that, people aren't going to know how to meet us. Right. So anyway, yeah, Robbie.
I love this so much. And it made me think about, I think what happens for a lot of us, definitely happened for me, as I was creating these safe places unknowingly, like I was just walking around in the world being this way, right? I didn't really know what my powers were. And so I would, it encouraged people to come. It's like, oh, you're a safe person to unload on,
Yes.
right? And for a lot of us, like we don't know what's happening for a while. And then it's just, and there's a sense of like, oh, wow, people are telling me stuff. Like part of that feels good, right? Until it doesn't. So, so what you all are saying, like about boundaries, about finding the balance, about being able to communicate what we need, it all starts with us really understanding kind of what we're doing in the first place, right? Like we are great and owning that. Like we are great at being these safe havens for other people's emotions. So we will often attract that. and making sure that we have the language to say yes or no to that, to have those boundaries. And like you all are saying too, of allowing ourselves to express what is true for us, not just being the sponge for everyone else, but allowing ourselves to be on the reciprocating end, right? To also receive being held by somebody else. So yeah, it's really important.
And just, does that feel risky to you? Like, how do
100%.
you navigate through that? Like, how do you navigate?
Yeah, for me, it's always risky on the front end. And what I have started doing, like, it's taken me time to figure all this out, right? First of all, and then to try to navigate it all. And my way now, Donna, is just to be as open as I can. Like, I will test the waters is what it is for me. So, and one way I do that is just I will say something like, I'm not at my best today. If that, that's assuming that's true for me, I'm not at my best today, and see how that's received. And if it's kind of like brushed aside or cursory, then it's like, okay, so this isn't a safe place to really go. This isn't going to be that type of friendship. But when people respond with curiosity or care and concern, allow me the space to talk, then I take them up on it and go, and then I express my gratitude. It's like, thank you for, allowing me to say that. And I also say things like, to be clear, you're not responsible for my feelings, but I really, I'm responsible for what's going on for me, but I really appreciate the space to say what's true. Like, that meant a lot to me. Thank you.
I love that. And just, I know, for me, when I'm in front of a friend sharing, some deep emotional stuff, or I'm sharing that, I will say just what you did. I just think to give permission, hey, I don't want you to take this on. Yeah. If you could just listen, I have no expectations of you, giving me advice, fixing, or, just if you could just listen, like, I got this, but I really just need you to listen. Yeah. And that is like, isn't that freeing? Like, for me, I'm like, whoa, so freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I was just thinking of, sorry, Robbie, do you want to go?
No,
ahead?
Go ahead, Andrea.
Is, we all grew up in the television era, and we learned examples of friendship a lot from television, right? From media. And what I remember is sort of cliquey stuff that Fiona was talking about earlier, and that why aren't we shown examples of deep diving, hold space, respectful, being valued, seen, and friendships on television? I find myself drawn to more European movies, I guess, because of their depth of character versus shoot 'em up, bang 'em up, blow 'em up kind of, or horror, whatever. And I just feel like we are missing examples of respectful friendships, deep friendships through our media, which is such a big part of most people's lives and development as young people too. So just wanted to throw that out there. And that makes me a little sad.
Yes, go ahead, Fiona.
So this is exactly what I wanted to bring up, actually, Andrea, exactly what you're talking about, which is having grown up watching movies and watching TV where especially female friendships are portrayed in a way that, without putting a lot of terminology on it, I would describe as a little unhealthy, like, unhealthy attachment relationships. Watching those kinds of things growing up, and then looking at my own friendships, I always felt like there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't connect in a way that was, high drama, or like, big emotional unloading at, any hour of the day. And do you know what I'm talking about? Like that kind of high volume, high drama friendship where it's, your adrenals are, on fire all the time. Like I really always thought that there was something wrong with me, that I didn't enjoy those kinds of high drama friendships. And I have the sort of same experience that you're describing, which is I would like to see different kinds of female friendships modeled in TV and movies, where it's, we're showing our boundaries and we're also supporting each other in a healthy way and communicating in kind ways. Like I want more of that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we need practice. I mean, you guys are pointing out that the way it was mentored to us was not healthy. And then, with us, with these, seeking deep meaning and purpose and high processing and feeling, like I shouldn't assume, but I mean, as a group of HSPs, but I know I'm always looking for meaning or purpose, or like what is really happening with you versus talking about something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just bringing in how much more challenging as an HSP that can be for us, because those standards of depth of connection are so much different than the average person. So it just, I don't know, it feels like it's just bigger, more room to come together. Do you guys feel that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, deeper connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, this is another thing that I had that I had written down, that and I said, I desire friends that are skilled in their capacity to communicate even when it's hard. And we are willing to practice together. I mean, because for me, I can often, this person, a lot of people don't have the communication tools, right? We weren't taught. I think it's like we're in the sandbox of life and relation together. I really feel that. And to just practice, like, wow, did you really mean this? Or, and it's risky, but if we don't do it, I know I check my investment in a friendship and I say, okay, am I just ruling this person out because they don't have like what I call just basic communication tools? Or, or can we work together and say, hey, you know what, if you could, the next time this happens, if we could do this, or I felt like I was kind of blown off, or I felt a sense of disconnection to you. Are you feeling that? I mean, I just had that with a friend of mine. It was a very awkward conversation, but I love her dearly. And there was just this elephant in the room of disconnection. And I'm invested in her. I love her. And I said, hey, I'm feeling this. Are you feeling this? And then, we ended up working it out. Like, how can we, God, I was scared that I did something wrong, or, oh no. And, whatever. We got to really say, how can we do this together? Not me saying, oh, Susie Q, give her a fake name. Susie Q, I need you to do, communicate la, la, la. I'd be like, hey, when I haven't heard from you for a month, I start feeling like I'm not a priority in your life, and I want a distance because I get scared. And then she's like, wow, well, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to communicate, whatever needed to be communicated. And I said, can we have an agreement that we can come and say, hey, I don't know what to do. I feel disconnected and I need your help. Like, what can we do? Right? I mean, and I feel like maybe that is more likely to happen in a romantic relationship, marriage, partnership, but I believe it needs to happen. I believe we need to up-level friendships in that same regard. That's my truth. So anyway, I'm really passionate about that. But I mean, have you guys ever like meeting each other, like, here's the two of us. God, I'm kind of scared. I'm wondering, did I do, just sharing the truth of what's happening and how can we, it's and not even necessarily resolve, right? It's like, how can we teach each other to communicate and support each other in a way that brings us, closer in connection.
I'll add to that. I mean, I think when I think about it, it really just goes back a lot to the way we have seen friendships modeled for us, because there are so few places where you see that kind of communication modeled, right? Like, what are the actual words? How do you use them? Because in my experience, when you communicate the way you just told us, when you say, this is how I'm feeling, people are really receptive when you say, this is how I'm feeling, this is my experience. When you go into something and you say, you did this and that and the other thing, and my feelings are hurt, and I feel like, right, like as soon as you start blaming the friend for doing the thing that you're upset about, you no longer own your own feelings. And then it just becomes a discord. But as soon as we are able to value our own feelings and learn how to communicate them, that's huge in any kind of relationship, but particularly with friendships, because I think people want to know how we feel. And that's just, if somebody cares about you, they want to know how you feel. It's a good opening point.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, again, bringing us back to HSPs of being the ones that are often receiving, I think, intentionally to share that ourselves, like even, feeling overwhelmed by something, or someone's, what a dear friend is going through emotionally, or, whatever, just being able to share that. I just think it's really hard when we have we have the skills. I mean, let's face it, we could walk into a room, snap our fingers, and we got it. We can read we know how to read all this stuff, and we know how to tend to people. But if we're not teaching others how to tend to us and taking that risk and being vulnerable, it just doesn't happen. And that's risky. Like, sometimes it doesn't work. Like what you were saying, Robbie, like saying, I'm kind of having an off day, test the waters, assess the situation. How does this person respond? Be like, oh, well, if they dismiss it, it's like, kind of not my people. Or pay attention, maybe as a one-time, one and done. We got to assess it and give it more time and space sometimes. But anyway, to be able to just, I don't know, I guess what I'm saying is the importance of us putting our vulnerability out there is key to having our needs met, so we can continue to do this amazing work that we're doing. And sometimes we lose friends over it, and it's painful. And there's that too.
Yeah, I agree. I liked what you said earlier, Donna, about kind of the we, like, can we do this together? To me, I like that concept of, it's like, we're in this friendship together. Let's communicate our needs, or, I mean, something that happens for me too, I mean, because I'm human, so I think it happens to other people too, is, a situation will occur and something, it triggers it triggers a response from me, right? That has nothing to do with that person, but it has something to do with something in the past, right? And so now I'm in my triggered response. And what can happen then is, if I just stay there and stop, then I can make up all kinds of stories about this other person and blah, 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 and react from that place. And then that person is reacting to my reaction. Like, Ray, becomes a little cyclone thing, which is where, again, awareness of your own stuff and being able to communicate can be really helpful. Because the moment I recognize, oh, this is something happened for me here, if I'm in a safe friendship, I can say that and go, and to be clear, this is not about you, but I just want you to know what's happening for me. So I'm a little touchy about this because it touched on something else. And that leaves the door open for the other person to say, yeah, well, I thank you for telling me that. And I did not intend that at all. They're like, yep, I figured that. But, and I think it all comes down to, Donna, something that you talk about all the time in the spaces we're in, which is about how to communicate well, right? And it does take practice. And sometimes I feel so skilled at it. And other times I feel like I just fall on my freaking face, you know? Because again, welcome to being human, right? There's things we're really great at and other things we struggle at. And
Yes. Yes.
but like, what a gift to be in relationship with someone where you could say, wow, I just fell right on my face there. And thank you for giving me the grace, you know, to help scoop me up and like, we can continue on. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a gift. That's a gift.
Yeah.
And to, you know, and then that's allowing them to really see you.
That's right.
Right. Anyway, go ahead, Fiona.
Oh, I have to add to that just because it made me think of currently my favorite line is, I preface everything with, now I don't know if I'm going to say this the right way. So, right, like just in case I don't, help me out with some words. That's anytime I think in my head, God, is this going to really upset the other person? But the other things you were saying, Robbie, made me think of as HSPs. I don't know if you all have the same experience, but I just kind of get my feelings hurt sometimes. Like I recognize that about myself, that my skin can be thin at times, and things that other people might not get hurt by just hurt my feelings. And I know that about myself, and I try to be pretty transparent about that with people in my life. But it's a reminder to me that is really part of the HSP nervous system. Our brains are literally wired to remember bad things for a longer period of time and pay attention to things that are hurtful more than the average person would. So I think it's helpful to recognize that about the trait, which is we're starting from a place where our nervous systems and the way we process information is just different from other people. So when I remind myself, okay, this is my HSP trait, I'm not in danger, there is no lion chasing me, but my feelings are hurt. And then, I can soften the way I respond to the person.
Well, and I mean, hearing that too, Fiona, I just love, naming the HSP, different nervous system, but also really validating. Yeah, I too feel like I, take things more personally because I feel deeper. But I also try to validate that within myself. I say, I'll call myself sweetheart, I know that hurts. And who you're with right now is not feeling the same way. They're having a different experience. But I really validate that because, not to push it away. And I'm not saying that any of us do that, but the truth is we feel bigger. So things hurt. They hurt. And, and that's the thing, back to putting ourselves out there vulnerably in relation, right? That, there's that risk for us, I believe, is higher because the risk of how much it's going to hurt. If we are, if it doesn't work, but then that's called an honoring, really honoring ourselves and our traits and who we are and the beauty of our hearts and how deeply we feel and process, and, including times when that's not received. Right. So go Robbie.
I also want to say the flip side of that, because I agree 100%. And the flip side of that is we also experience the deep connection even more deeply, right? And the yummy feelings are bigger too, right? So although the pain can really hit, man, those joyous, yummy, heart places are just as big and amazing, right? Like
yes.
we get that side of it too, which is really cool.
I love that. That's so important that's something that we live every day, right? Like looking at a flower. Oh my God, look at the flower, just the richness of life. Like Andrea, you with nature and, there's so much so much richness we get. But it's, again, pulling it back to the relational piece and friendships, just speaking to the challenges of that. And, you know, that when we are feeling something so deeply and it's not received, I just think it's important for one to understand it's our system and our differences, but again, to validate whatever experience that is and nurture ourselves. And, you know, so anyway, I just am really relating to that, Fiona, about that, you know, you often feel hurt. So do I. And it's, you know, I mean, yeah, Andrea, how about you? How do you, when you get hurt, like, what do you do in relation?
Yeah, thanks for asking. A question comes up for me, and it falls into both the being aware of your own feelings and communication. So I struggle a little bit with, if I do get my feelings hurt, and sometimes they're so hurt in the moment that I can't speak, you know, like that kind of hurt.
Yeah.
And you know, I struggle with, do I pause and say, my feelings are really hurt right now, I just need a moment. How much do you put back on the other person? Is it their responsibility? I don't know. I don't want people to walk around on eggshells around me thinking they're going to hurt me all the time. But is there do you guys have some ideas or happy medium, or deciding when it's appropriate to speak up? Like, that really hurt my feelings. Please don't say that again, you know, or I guess I don't have clearness about this. Clarity.
I think it's a lot of discernment, right? It's discernment of who the audience is, right? You know, and what Robbie said, you know, you just assess in your own way. But God, Andrea, I mean, that's your intelligence and your awareness of your own feelings, right? And including the intelligence of, you know, do I say something or do I not? Or I don't know. I feel like we learn how to just practice and build up that trust. And sometimes we mess up, like, oh, maybe that wasn't the right person, but then we learn. Or I don't know. I feel like ultimately it comes back to meeting ourselves, like you know, meeting yourself with that, and hearing you say that sometimes, like, you can't speak, like, wow, that is really powerful. And I have experienced that too. And that is just, that's a moment of real tending to ourselves in the best way possible, in whatever that is, right? I mean, and just honoring the impact of that. And I don't know, that's how I would. Yeah, go Robbie.
Yeah, I really agree with the tending to ourselves thing. And from that point, then I say, how invested am I in this relationship? Because if it's not what I'm invested in, and they've hurt me to the point where I can't speak in the moment, I'm probably not saying anything, and I'm probably just not spending time with that person in the future. Like, it's probably something like that. And I will tend to my own needs. If this is somebody that I'm more invested in, or somebody that maybe by circumstance, I will be spending more time with, those are two different things. But if I'm invested with that person, then I take the chance, and I'll just talk about, I will always own my own, I try really hard to own my feelings and say, this is how I felt when this happened, and not, you did the thing, you know, because that gives them the space to then say what happened. And often it's like, oh, it's often like a shock. Oh, I didn't realize, you know, or I didn't mean, or you're like, okay, me hearing that is helpful to me. It's helpful to know. It's kind of like, and no disrespect to our non-HSP friends, but it feels like sometimes I just get a picture of like a giant kind of lumbering around and it's like, oh, you totally destroyed my little house. I didn't mean to, it's kind of like that versus intent, versus malicious intent, right? Which is
Yes.
like, oh, and because that can happen for me, I'll think, wow, why the F were you so mean? Like, that's terrible. Like, why are you mean? But then giving the person the chance to say, that was not my intention. Be like, okay, that opens then the floor for me to talk about why it was why I found it hurtful, and it can create some space. It's hard for me to answer your question, Andrea, because for me, it's so dependent on who is this person in front of me, because I will react and respond differently to that depending on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But you raise a really good question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you go, Fiona?
I was going to say my go-to for better or for worse is oftentimes humor too. Like I would probably say, like, ouch, or like, I tend to, and I'm not saying it's always the best thing because, humor isn't always the right approach, but I tend to feel like it's my job to keep everything light, even when it feels heavy. So I will tend to see if lightness can be an entry point, just to keep it less deep for folks who have a harder time with deep feelings, because I also accept that not everybody is comfortable going deep and going far, and that's okay. It's not my job to decide how deep other people can go. So sometimes I will start light and go for humor and see what it, see where it goes from there.
Sounds good.
Hopefully that your fellow HSP sisters here helped you navigate through that experience.
Give us their name, Andrea. We will set them straight.
Well,
Yeah. We're going to
text you.
send out the hitman or the,
You just have to say the whole thing with, like, if you say whatever you're feeling with a whole string of emojis, I'm sure they'll understand what you're feeling.
But I mean, this is a perfect example. We're doing the sandbox right now, you guys.
Exactly.
It's the relational sandbox. Like, this happens, what do you do? And then we can, I don't know. And then when it's in real time, like right now, we're talking about scenarios and such, and then real time, we can just, like, for one, know that we're not alone. Like, the four of us really get it.
Yeah.
Like, my heart really feels that so deeply.
Yeah.
And that helps, like, just knowing, wow, that I'm not alone in this and other people understand this. That helps.
That's so true, Donna, because especially, and I think Fiona mentioned this earlier too, like as a child, I was taught, like, shove your feeling, like there's no space for your feelings here, like get over it, and not that, anyway, I'm not here to vilify my parents, and I'm not saying that that's what they said, but I'm saying that that's what I heard and how I took it, right, and how I interpreted it. So making a space for ourselves to say what's true, and knowing we're not alone, like these emotions are experienced by a lot of us. Like, we feel deeply, and it doesn't mean there's something wrong or broken with us, or that we're doing relationships wrong, or that we're bad friends or bad humans because we have these big emotions. It's like, this is how we're wired. This is naturally a part of who we are. There's nothing wrong here. It's okay. And then from that place, being able to navigate, I think it's helpful, instead of starting from the place of, oh, I'm wrong. I'm having these big feelings and that's wrong,
Right. And also being willing, as we said, to, take that risk of vulnerability, and whether that's like timing of, I really need to be with myself and tend to my own system right now. And I might need a few days or whatever, my own processing time to come back and talk about something.
Definitely.
Just whatever we need on that one, that individual scenario of friendship or relationship. But anyway, I thought we might want to wrap up. Of course, we could talk for another 2 hours. I know I could, but I just, one of the things that I love to do when I facilitate is I love to talk, to just lead with something you're leaving with. Like, just this amazing discussion we had, is there anything that really, sparked your like, wow, I'm going to try that, or just, I don't know, anything that feels like it wants to come out as a result of having this time together.
Thanks all of you for the reminder about when you're having difficult feelings, the self-compassion and validation of those is just really not something we're taught to do. So it's something we have to practice, and just reminder of that is so important. And so thank you.
You are so welcome. I love it.
Not to jump on the bandwagon, but that was literally what I was thinking as well. It's like, it's just a really, really helpful reminder for me that what's going on for me is valid and real and okay. And starting from that place of that self-compassion, self-love.
I guess for me, I just love this topic so much. I think about friendships all the time. I think about my friendships, and I think about friendships in general all the time. So I love this so much. And next time I see any of my friends, I'm going to tell them that I was thinking about them when I was recording this podcast.
Oh,
yay.
that's so good.
So good. Well, and I'm leaving with my desire and passion for us, as a relational coach, and just how important relationships, friendships, we're talking friendships, but I'm leaving with encouragement and, I don't know, in support of one another to be able to go out and risk vulnerability and really honor ourselves at a deep level, and know that sometimes we have to teach people how to meet our needs as HSPs. And with that, what you said, Robbie, the amazing gifts of the bliss and all the wonderful depth of connection that we feel, that we are fantastic friends. So if you're looking for friends,
I need a new friend.
we have 4 people. We are really good friends, really good. And if it's not us, we recommend other HSP friends. Anyway, and in closing, thank you all so much.